behind the scenes during the chemist because I make my own natural products. I teach our youth how to braid. I'm basically giving them a really, really safe place. I'm creating a space right now as we speak in my garage. I'm setting up shop, so they're gonna have a salon space with new booths and everything to be able to give them a place to be creative. What else about me? I'm the first in the 757 to give Black girls who look like me the opportunity to work inside of ODU University to make 6 figures. So that's something.
Nice. So with this discussion that we're going to have today, again, we are very grateful for Zay for putting this on for us. And what I've been telling everybody who's coming to see my booth over here is that we need to have more and more support in this area. Hampton Roads doesn't get a lot of things like this, and we need people to continue to support every Black business that's in here, every Black vendor that's in here, but also this natural hair movement, because if we don't have that support, we're not going to keep it here. So tell a friend, share a friend, not only about the vendors, but also the hairstylists. We need a network, and with that network, this hair is going to continue to grow. So this panel, if you guys don't know what natural hair movement actually is over the decades, there's been changes. There have been things that people have either embraced or denied about our natural hair. And I give the example, in the 1960s, we actually had the Afro hair movement. So a lot of you guys knew about Black and Proud and that kind of thing. Once again, we transitioned a little bit later in the 80s and the 90s when locks and braids, Poetic Justice, Lauryn Hill, they represented their natural hair movement. And then now, once we get into later times of the 2010, everybody was doing their big chop. Everybody was embracing what their head looked like and things. So that's what we're going to be talking about, that natural hair movement, what it means. And so what I want to start off, ladies, in today's society, when we're in the 2024, what do you guys think of as the natural hair representation when you look around in your area?
What I'm enjoying is seeing our Black women embrace their natural hair, not trying to look like what we see in those old magazines and trying to make your hair as straight as a bone, but us embracing our natural textures of our hair, learning what products is required to maintain those instead of trying to hide what people may have thought not beautiful. I don't believe that there is a bad texture of hair. You just need to learn how to deal with it.
For me, I am loving that people are being creative. They're going inside their 9-to-5 jobs, like me, wearing color hair, actually putting designs in their hair, wearing their hair up and like big different texture, different designs. Like, they're being creative. They're being their authentic self. That's the part that I really love.
That is great encouragement. So definitely reaching out to somebody that can maybe help you relate to what look you want and everything. That's where I think our professionals come into play. And more we're having our natural hair professionals coming out. Not just working in the kitchen, not just working in the house. So again, just support your natural hair stylist. So we're going to start off with this next question. I myself personally have been natural since 1999. That's like 25 years now. And I actually went natural before it was trendy. In my opinion, now it's trendy to be natural. People are trying it out and things like that. But my biggest thing is, like, I just don't want you on that creamy crack. Like, I just want to get you as far as possible away from that thing. And like with me specializing in natural hair, when I got my license, it wasn't acceptable in the field. You know, I had my instructors tell me, like, oh, you're gonna do hair with looking like that? You know, you're gonna walk into the salon looking like that? So what challenges have you guys found entering into the industry with your specialization in locks, with your specialization in braids, that, you know, you maybe want to encourage a lot of people in this room who may be thinking about getting into the industry for natural hair?
I was ready. For me, like you said, you were in the corporation world. I was actually in the corporation world. I was a pharmacy technician, going to school to be a pharmacist. So for me, I was back to just being your authentic self. Like, that's the key. right now. Especially with social media being around right now. So many people want to look like everyone else. And
The church said amen. All right?
Amen.
The church said amen.
so that's what it is for me.
So for me, I have been on both sides. I had locks for 19 years. I actually just combed my locks out last March. So I'm just coming out of a year with not having my locks. So it still feels a little weird for me, especially for those people who know that I'm a master loctician, and the first thing they do is look at my head like, where are they? But I've been on both sides of that, and I was on the lock side when it wasn't as popular, where we were getting them for a reason instead of a fashion purpose. But I have never had a relaxer myself. However, specializing in keratin treatments, recently here I got a keratin treatment myself. But the particular line that I use is Keratin Complex, and it's a botanical line. So my hair can revert back to its natural, extremely curly self within about 3 months or so. But over the summer, I can still have those beautiful silk presses with my straight hair, and I don't have to worry about hot flashes that some of y'all might experience. Or even the humidity or things messing up my hair, but I'm still able to revert back to my curls. So I encourage both sides. I really can't tell my clients like, hey, don't cut your locks. You know, I'm a firm believer in, especially when it comes to locks, your locks embody everything that you experience. And for me, it was a matter of letting go of those things that I may have held on to my entire adult life. So it was a whole new experience for me, and I'm enjoying it.
Perfect. Thank you for that encouragement, both of you. So Viola, this question is specifically for you as a braider. So I have a lot of clients that have talked about wanting to go natural. They were forced to go natural during the pandemic. And so they may have found themselves in a world that they had no clue what to do. And so they turn to braids. They turn to, well, this is all I know. And then they start to realize either that they don't know how to maintain it or they don't know what to do, but they're just natural underneath. So as a braider, what recommendations would you have for either a technique that maybe they should try as they're transitioning, or a product? Any words of wisdom from the braid world that somebody who's considering joining the natural movement?
I would suggest, first of all, for you to try out two-strand twists. Especially during the pandemic, that was the thing. Like, everybody wanted to find a braider, especially at home, because all the shops were shut down. So try doing your natural hair first, because once you start off with your natural hair, you can go into different products and educate yourself on the different textures of hair first. Because once you know and understand your texture, then you will be able to say, okay, this product works best for me. So every product works differently. For example, my go-to right now, of course, will be Natural Botanical Nutrition, because I have that product, that's my product, and it's a moisturizing product. And what people don't understand is that you need a clarifying shampoo and you need a moisturizing shampoo.
Say that one more time. You need two shampoos. What? How many of y'all in here knew that you knew different shampoos? All right. See, I like that there's more hands going on. So tell them one more time, what kind of shampoo?
You need a clarifying shampoo and you need a moisturizing shampoo. So, and also you need a regular conditioner and you need a leave-in conditioner from time to time, especially if you're going to wear your natural hair. I also recommend that you wear braids for 4 to 6 weeks and then wear your natural hair for a little bit so you can keep your edges, okay?
Wait a minute, you don't leave it in for like a year and let the braids grow out and no?
No.
Oh, okay, all right, just checking. So she's dropping wisdom, right? So y'all see all these Instagram people and they're talking, oh, my braid fell out and everything like that. It's because they left it in too long.
Yes, and I would suggest for those of you who want braids to at least have 3 to 4 inches of hair, because if your hair is too short, it's a possibility of your braider actually pulling on your hair follicles, which can cause for you to have alopecia or anything of that nature, where your hair may not grow back. So it's important to educate yourself as much as you can.
Amazing. amazing. How many of y'all just learned something?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, and that's what that's about. Because you're not gonna be born knowing everything. I like to say every one of us in here, we have our own purpose and we have our own ministry. So I like to say all of us, we have our ministry in hair, we have blessed hands, we have growing hands, however you want to say it. But the thing is, you want to search out somebody who knows that that's their ministry, and so they can help you to actually get that help. So if you have natural hair, you're not born to know what to do with it. You're not born to figure it out. Get help, get professionals, even if it's just a question. Most of us, we're gonna talk your head off about everything and anything under the sun, and so you're not bothering us. You know, you're not causing any kind of issues for us. So for us, we want to help you, right?
Encourage you to ask those questions.
Exactly, exactly. So this is a fun question, you guys. So when I think of my natural hair and my clients and stuff like that, I personally love music. I used to be a performer myself. So I think of NDRE's I Am Not My Hair. That's what I think of. So me and my clients, we have therapy sessions, and we kind of discuss things that's beyond the hair. So that's my representation for me. If you were to think of a song, what would be a representation of you? And it doesn't have to be about natural hair or anything like that, but just something that's like, that's my theme song.
Solange, Don't Touch My Hair.
Oh, that's a good one. If y'all heard her, Solange, Don't Touch My Hair.
Don't touch it.
And the reason why is because whoever actually touches my hair and like physically do my hair, I make sure that their energy is everything.
Come on now.
Because whatever they're going through, they can that energy goes back into your head.
Talk to him.
So that's the reason why. So when someone actually touches me and like, oh no, don't touch me, it could be that it possibly God's saying the energy off, but I don't really know. But that's what we're gonna go with.
Shauna, what about you? What's your theme song?
I would say my theme song is Float, Janelle Monáe. My business is naturally unique beauty. Like, I encourage my clients, whatever that may look like to them, to be naturally and uniquely them. And be free flowing with that. Don't restrict yourself. Flow and float your energy. Like she said, put that in the community. Like, put that out there. You may encounter somebody and they just need that energy from you. You know, so I encourage people to be naturally themselves and float.
Right, so y'all got some new songs to add to your playlist if you're not familiar with it, and it definitely gives you a little bit of pride. So Miss Shauna, I'm gonna have you continue talking. This question is specifically for you as a loctician. So many people are doing these immediate actions, is what I call it. They don't want that gratitude or to have the journey, is what I like to call it. And they're doing the Insta-locks and extensions and everything like that. So as a loctician who's seen it change, what advice do you have for somebody if they want to try out locks, or they're wanting to figure out how exactly, what type of lock? You know, you get where I'm going with this?
So for that, I would say, as she suggested, two-strand twists. With that, you can kind of see how the locks will potentially frame your face. You can play with the sizing of those locks at that time as well. And if you're not okay with them, you still have the ability to take those out versus instant locking, where it'll take more time. For myself, when I had my locks and I was combing them out and they were matured locks, it took 17 hours. To comb those out. So it'll be real time consuming. And that's like, for me, if I were to comb someone's locks out, depending on the maturity, you're looking at a minimum $500 or more. So before
Wait a minute, you charge people for that? That's not like just your hobby?
No.
I thought we just liked doing this.
You know, I made a post the other day and I said I put in too much time and have too many licenses and certifications for people to think this is a hobby.
That part.
Yes, but again, know your products as well. As she stated, she uses a two-step shampoo process. I use 3. So I use a clarifying, a therapeutic, and a moisturizing shampoo. Because you want to stimulate and promote that growth. You want to get the blood circulating on the scalp. So I use a 3-step process. Also, consider the seasons, because just like your skin changes with the seasons, your hair changes with the seasons as well. So those moisturizers that work for you in the wintertime, you might be finding now that they don't work for you right now, because we're going into a different season. Your hair may be more dry, more brittle now. You need to switch up your products. So understanding your hair texture as well will help you determine those right products And that style might work for you. If you were using the wrong products and you thinking that the locks or two-strand twist might not be for you, but you weren't using the products to achieve your desired result.
Perfect. So you guys learned a little bit more? Yeah, okay. So that's the goal of this panel. I want you guys to be able to feel empowered with whatever type of natural you are. I don't care if you're silk pressing it, if you're locking it, if you're braiding it. I just want you to be natural. And the main thing, there's a lot of resources out here, but you have to do the searching on yourself and then reach out with people. But it is a partnership. It's a partnership between you and that professional. But then also, as you heard both of these young ladies say, you have to be compliant. So you can't expect these amazing results and you ain't doing what you're supposed to do on top of it. Right?
I got homework.
Okay.
I got homework.
So how many of you guys in this room have ever heard of the Crown Act? Yeah? Okay. So I like that there's a lot of hands going up and I like that there's a lot of hands that don't know. You've heard of it. Okay. So I like to just make sure I'm putting everything out correct, so I'm going to read it to you guys. The Crown Act is actually a California law which prohibits discrimination based on hairstyle and hair texture by extending protection under the FEHA and the California Education Code. It's the first legislation that was passed at the state level in the United States to prohibit such discrimination. So that actually happened in June of 2019, only in California.
Damn shame you gotta have a law for that.
It really is.
That's great.
It is. I've experienced it myself. I actually used to work for the Department of Corrections. And my hair color was the same color as the European that walked in with me, but I got in trouble because it wasn't a natural color. Or my locks weren't professional despite the fact that they were well maintained and manicured.
So let me drop one more jewel on you guys. As of June 2023, only 23 states have actually enacted the Crown Act into law. And more than half of those states have filed or pre-filed legislation for consideration. So about 1 in 10 states have yet to still formally examine the Crown Act as a law. So more than 40 local areas have actually enacted the law. But again, it's a shame that we have to actually have a law in place. But it is a law. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about right now. Because since it is a law and that most people don't realize, you don't have to go into a job to apologize for how you look. You don't have to straighten your hair to change it up for them to accept you when you go into that interview. So ladies, the advice that I'm going to ask for you to give one at a time. If you have a client that's coming into your door and they're asking for a professional look, what guidance might you provide them to not only stay true to themselves, but also to get that job?
For one,
Right, that's a deep question, right?
it is. So for me, I swear I've done some of everything, y'all. I have a background in human resources as well. So for me, it's the policies. I need to see that. If there's something that states in your policy that I have to have not cosmetic type colors, I can't come in with pink hairs, I need to see that in writing. If it's not in writing, it don't exist, because they're gonna tell you the same thing. So if that is the case, and it needs to be more of a natural growing hair texture, hair color, then yeah, that's a conversation you can have to get that hair color to a more neutral tone, I would say. Versus a fashion color. But if it's not in writing, it didn't happen, just like they're gonna tell you.
Nope.
But what about in that interview? They're making a first impression. So what do you mean they can't come in with locks all the way down to their butt? And
I'm gonna just tell you this. If it was my client and that was put into place, if they can't accept you for who you are, then that ain't the place for you. That's my answer, and I'm sticking with it.
Wonderful. Is there any particular style you might recommend for someone to come in and they have not accepted their natural hair journey in the professional world?
Protective styles, in my mind, come to play. If you don't have locks, I would suggest if you did have locks to have them more manicured if possible, if that is how your locks have been formed. Otherwise, protective styles are an option. I love a loose crochet. It looks like your natural loose hair or even a sew-in at that point, but it still gives a more professional appearance.
So I always ask a lot of questions. So for me, it would be, where are you going? Where do, that would be my main question. So if they want to embrace their natural hair, we can start off with, a twist out. That's my go-to. Behind these braids, I'm a twist out girl. But other than that, if they're going into like more like an office environment, I say, hey, let's do a crochet or let's do a silk press. You know, let's embrace your natural hair as much as we can. You know, because I'm all about keeping hair.
Good advice, good advice. So we were supposed to have another panelist that is missing from here, but I still think these ladies are capable of answering this question, so I'm gonna spin it on them. So we had a barber here who is gonna talk a little bit. So I'm gonna put it in both aspects. So sometimes we have those wonderful moments where we're connected with our hair and for emotional reasons we cut off our hair. Sometimes we made that wrong decision and put that box of color on top of something else and, you know, we had a chemical chop. So I tell people there's a lot of reasons why people decide to cut their hair. But in the professional world that you guys are in with cosmetics and seeing all the trends and trades, how do you help your client to decide if it's time to cut their hair?
I had a mother and daughter duo that traveled more than an hour to get to me because the stylist that they were going to, they were getting relaxers from. And every time they got a relaxer, which was more frequent than they should have, that relaxer touched the same spot that it touched the last time. So that's causing more damage in that area where that relaxer is overlapping. So when they came in, the new growth was beautiful, thick and curly, but it felt like overcooked spaghetti on the ends. Because the hair is fried, there's nothing you can do at that point. So it needs to be cut. However, you have some people that's not gonna wanna take that big chop that they should. So sometimes you have to baby step people to get to that point. They have to understand that each time you come back, we're gonna have to take off just a little bit more to get you there. But I encourage them to make that big chop because overall, it's gonna be more healthy to do that big chop from the beginning than to baby step it throughout the process. But if they're not comfortable with the length that they're potentially gonna end up with, then I suggest that.
Yeah, so I encourage baby steps. So if they decide that they want to do baby steps, then we'll go in and do a quick style, like cornrows or something of that nature. And then once they take their cornrows out, we'll cut a little bit more and a little bit more. So a lot of my clients, they want to keep their hair. They think that it's going to grow nice and long by holding on to them split ends, but it's not. It's nice and brittle and dead. Let's get rid of them.
And it's gonna split further up. Cut to the split ends. It's not gonna do nothing but split further up, and you still ultimately gonna have to do that big chop that you were trying to avoid in the first place.
Yes, I tried to give a couple of tips, signs that you should look for when you need to trim or need to cut it. So I tell people those little knot balls that y'all throw out the window when you see it flying and just kind of let it go. That's a sign you need to trim, okay? That's not just something to ignore. Also, when you have somebody and they're constantly saying how much more hair is coming out of the comb and they're thinking that maybe they're losing their hair, 9 times out of 10, you're really combing it out because a lot of that hair is starting to fight up against you. So are there signs that you might tell someone, either a time frame or anything you would suggest to our audience here who maybe is still trying to figure out a routine when it comes to trimming or cutting? I've even heard people talk about, oh yeah, locks, you should cut those every 5 years. So,
when it comes
I
to
thought I was gonna
locks,
get something from that. Y'all ain't heard that? Like, you know, yeah, you ain't supposed to keep locks only but so long. So now what? So we gonna demystify some of those comments that you guys hear. I heard all y'all.
So when it comes to locks, I will say that I've actually done research and trials on some of my clients. I do suggest that you trim the ends of your locks. What you will see over time is towards the end, you get that little thin area and the lock is just kind of hanging on. That's because it's still hair at the end of the day. And despite the fact that your hair is matted to form the locks, you still need to trim those ends in order for that hair to continue to grow. So where I don't say to full cut them after a certain period of time, I do suggest that you do trim those ends when it comes to locks. Now, loose natural hair, if you have a little bit longer hair, sometimes you can kind of feel it catching on your clothes a little bit. That's those ends that need to be cut off. Mm-hmm.
That's what I suggest. When you're having a difficult time combing through with your paddle brush and it keeps getting stuck, then I'm like, okay, it's time for you to clip your ends. So most of the time I'll say probably around like 4 to 6 months technically, but sometimes it depends on how fast your hair grows. So some people may have to do it every 3. To be honest, I cut my hair every 3 months.
Me too.
And it grows like crazy, like a plant. It's like, oh my God, we can stop growing. But
I try to share with my clients sometimes if it is something that you're overthinking, like, oh, when was the last time I did this? When was the last time I thought about this? Think seasonally. Definitely do it. Just jump in there, but seasonally. If every time the season change, you know you have not treated or trimmed your hair, it's time to reach out to somebody to get some kind of a help so that you're not overthinking. Has it been 6 weeks? Has it been this? But definitely in between protective styles, I try to encourage my clients to try to do something like that. So if you're going just from one set of braids to the next set of braids and you haven't done anything and you're like, oh wow, it's been years.
It's not healthy.
There you go. All right. So I am actually just going to ask you guys also, in general, what is your must-have, either product that is like no discussion, no debate, this is what you have to do before I allow you to stay as my client? Because I know me, I fired a client before.
Me too.
Y'all interview us just like we interview you. And sometimes that connection is not correct. So you have to find the person that works for you, not only holistically, how you connect with the person with their hands, but what is your one go-to, especially with our natural hair people, because some people, they're not compliant. But you're like, I will not allow you to stay in my chair if you do not.
A word.
All right. I was waiting for her to pick one. That is a really good question, though, because it kind of depends.
Okay, you said based off a product or like,
You can pick a product, you can pick anything. So for me, I'll give you the example. As a trichologist, I focus on everything that goes from the inside out. And I personally don't eat pork or red meat. I focus mainly on chicken, vegetables, seafood, things like that. But once somebody gets into my 12-week protocol, preach. No. Once somebody gets into my 12-week protocol, there's certain things that I require you to cut out of your diet. If you're not compliant with the things that we've talked about and the things that we've agreed upon, whether it be sugars, whether it be something that I'm not accepting you as a client. I actually had someone tell me, well, my birthday's coming up. I got to go to that family reunion. I got this going on. And they could not agree to do that. So because they could not agree to the things that I knew they needed, you are not the client for me.
Okay, so I can answer that. It's most definitely a problem because I'm a braider. When they come in with a whole lot of product in their head, it kind of messes up the style, especially because I'm already using a moisturizing product already. So I use meat braid, right, to braid, and it already has like a conditioner in there. So if you come in with like oils in your hair's gonna automatically turn white.
Y'all hear that?
So once you leave and it turns white, even if I try to stitch you underneath the dryer, sometimes it may continue to stay white. It may even dry white. So product is my biggest thing. You have to get up. I can't do it.
I think for me, because I do so much from barbering to locks and loose natural hair, I think the biggest thing for me is you're gonna get the education when you're in the chair. I just need you to go home and do your homework. I need you to do your part. So if you have locks and you're telling me that you keep picking up all this lint, but I know you're not tying your hair up, I need you to do your part, because when you come back, we're gonna keep fighting that. So if you're coming in seeking the expert knowledge, I need you to go home with that knowledge and do your part too.
All right, you guys. So I know everybody in here has their social media that they follow, and I like to see. I love you. You already shaking your head like, no, ma'am. In my salon, we say the dirty word of YouTube University. I know Instagram has started to come out with all their little things and everything, so people are learning more from social media than they are from the professionals who's gone to school, put their love and their care and training in it. So I'm going to ask you about two controversial things that I've heard about, and I want your opinion because it's like something that's gone viral or something. So Shauna, I'm going to start with you. What is your opinion on brushing locks?
Brushing locks.
Do you know what brushing is? I mean, okay, so I just heard somebody over here say brushing locks. So start off by explaining what that trend is and then give your opinion, please.
So brushing locks has become kind of popular here lately. For two reasons. For one, it is believed that brushing your locks can help remove lint that you might have in the locks. It doesn't. It doesn't. The thing that it does help with, though, is distributing the natural oils that are in your hair. So if you don't have that fresh retwist and you're moisturizing your hair, which your hair needs water and oil to be properly moisturized, don't just put the oil on, it's just gonna sit on the outside. Your hair needs water and oil to be properly moisturized. At that point, you can brush the locks to distribute the oils throughout the course of them.
So if you guys understood the brushing of the locks, people are literally taking like little girl hairbrushes and they're running it through their locks. They are literally every day, as if you were making a ponytail,
Now,
brushing their locks.
The downside to that is everybody and every loctician don't know how to properly treat locks. So you'll end up going to get that retwist with those nice tight roots, but the rest of your lock is completely blown out. So you need to then seek someone who is knowledgeable about locks, someone who is familiar with the locksmithing technique, because that is what's going, and that's something I taught in my class earlier as well. That's something that's going to wrap that hair all the way back around, down that lock, back down. Palm rolling is not an see-all for every client. It's gonna thin out your client's hair. So if you have a client that has thinner locks, consistent palm rolling is going to ultimately thin out and twist off that lock. So you need to be familiar with the locksmithing technique to wrap that hair further down the lock. So brushing has its benefits as far as distributing the oil, but it's what you do after that to make sure that that hair that you fluffed up is put back to where it's supposed to be around the lock.
Thank you for sharing that, because I'm sure there's a lot of people in here who either are in their lock journey or starting to think about it that had those questions. All right, Ms. Viola. So, again, still talking about the trends and the things that are going on and things that go with the natural hair movement. I love your braids. I love the length of them. I love the color. I love your expression. But more and more, and maybe I'm just old, but I'm seeing, I call them butt crack braids. So, butt crack braids is what I call them. But the braids that are literally to the butt crack. But it's now gone to the next trend, and it's trending everywhere where I see people doing the challenges. How long can it be? It's all the way draping out the door and everything like that. And they walk in. I didn't think I went to Tropical Smoothie, and the young lady behind the counter, and I'm like, is that sanitary? Like, what's going on?
That's nasty.
So again, no shade to anybody who wears their braids that length and everything, but for two things, no, it's a beautiful expression. It's a beautiful expression. But the thing is, I want you as a braider to tell me how you feel about that trend, but then maybe if there's any advice that you can give, because just for me, the controversy is if it's too long, if it's too heavy, there's so many problems that could happen to it. So speak however you would like on that topic.
No, I wouldn't suggest you do. I mean, you can express yourself. You can express yourself by any means necessary. However, it will cause breakage if you keep wearing them too much. To be honest with you, I would suggest putting your hair up in a ponytail if you're gonna, go out in the public. Me personally, I'm not wearing my hair to the floor. I'm not about to take a shortcut with y'all, because why I want my braids on the floor? I mean, it's just an expression, but it's nothing against anyone who wants to do it.
So you don't do it?
No, ma'am.
You don't do the acrobat braids that's coming trailing on?
No, ma'am. Unless it's for content, I'm not doing it. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. I'm not doing it. It's unsanitary. And also, at the end of the day, if your braids is that long, you go to sit in the car, you're gonna sit on them, whoop, edge is gone.
Catch them in the door.
You put them in a door, it's a possibility of snatching out a braid. Like, it's just not my go-to. So I really educate my students on doing waist length braids at the max, or just you could do it to your butt or whatnot, but knee length, ankle length, content. That's it. That's all. Like hair shows where we are now, to express yourself.
So we are getting close to wrapping up, but I did want to give these young ladies a chance to tell me who they may be inspired to look at when it comes to natural hair, when it comes to your profession. If it's a mentor, it could be somebody that you have followed. I know myself, I consider myself self-educated a lot when it comes to natural hair, because again, I've been doing natural hair since 2004, and there were not a lot of the YouTube videos and all that kind of stuff. So I used to go to New York and take classes. I used to go to Georgia to find out information. I poured into myself because I knew what I wanted to pour back into my clients. So for you guys, what has been like your inspiration to learn about natural hair so that you can share with everyone else?
For me, it's my sister and the salon that she was in. Like, it was a family-oriented salon. Like, it was booths everywhere. It wasn't suites like we have now. Like, everybody was genuinely family. So the person who was sitting next to you, or like sitting there waiting, you could get educated by them. Education was like really free and embraced. Nobody was holding anything back from each other. Like right now, as we're speaking, you know, like how we're talking now, we can have a heart to heart. We can say, girl, no, that's wrong, but let me show you how to fix that. You know, so my sister, she's like my hair hero. I can honestly say that.
I would say a couple things. As far as locks goes, she was here last year, but Malika has been like a real inspiration to me since I started doing locks 20 years ago. I actually started going to some of her classes and workshops, and I loved her holistic approach to hair. Malika can look at you and tell just from your face that you have something medical going on within you need to take care of. And over the years, those are things that I've learned as well and started figuring out to treat hair from a holistic standpoint. But just as yourself, I'm self-taught with a lot that I do. Going to different classes, investing in myself. I'm a platform artist now. I travel the country on stages, doing hair at Bronner Brothers events and premiering things like that. So I've gone out to seek that knowledge, to put myself in those areas. So when y'all go to these hair shows, network. It is so important, whether you are another vendor, if you are a client coming through, or another hairstylist. You never know where you might see that person down the line, because again, Malika was in DC, Maryland area, and I'm from Southern Virginia, you know, so I really went out my way to make that connection and really hone in on my craft. And here 20 years later, I'm a master barber instructor. I own my salon, teaching natural hair, like just did the lock class. Like, thank you so much. Like, invest in yourself, for real. Don't just rely on YouTube, because just because you saw it online, don't make it right.
All right, so we have enjoyed pouring into you guys, and our panel's ending, but I want to make sure that these ladies have a genuine opportunity. If you want to connect with them, you know how to reach them. So Miss Viola, please give whatever shameless plug you want to do right now, whether it be social media or how they can find you, please.
You guys, you can find me on all platforms at Bruce Braids, and you can go to brucebraids.com to register for my 2-day classes and my 5-week courses that I have for our youth. We have a 5-week course coming up this June 17th through July the 15th.
So that's Bruce Braids with an S at the end, correct? All right.
And for myself, my personal page where you guys can see everything from pageantry to all the nonprofits that I sit on the executive board for. Everything is on Shauna Chapman on Facebook. Also on Facebook, you can find the business at Naturally Unique LLC. On Instagram, naturally_unique_LLC. At www.naturallyuniqueservices.com, where you can also submit a request for appointments or classes. I also assist with prep for state board for cosmetology and barbering, in addition to the natural classes, as well as lash tech. I do brow tinting, body contouring, and I do teach all of that as well.
Nice, thank you ladies. And again, I'm Angie Boyd. I am an international certified trichologist. I'm in Chesapeake, Virginia here. And so you can find me on sincerelybeautiful.com. It's the easiest way, but all social media platforms is Sincerely Beautiful with a Y. So thank you guys for listening, and definitely hopefully